Welcome to Face the State. I'm Ariana Bennett. Thank you for staying with us. Well, most of us have been to Pyramid Lake at some point, but you might not realize that it's actually located on a massive Indian reservation for the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe. Vinton Hawley, the chairman of the tribe, is here with us now to tell us about what it's like to live on the reservation. Vinton, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for the invite.
Now, you do live on the reservation, right?
Correct.
How big is the community out there?
We have 3 communities, Wadsworth, Nixon, and Sutcliffe, and we probably have close to 2,600 members total, but we're close to Fernley and close to Wadsworth, and those are our communities.
So you have a lot of members who don't actually live on the reservation?
Yeah, there's a large population that don't live on the reservation, and they're elsewhere.
Yeah. Now, the cultural history of the Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe is really interesting because, you guys have been there for ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just tell us about that.
Well, the history of the tribe is pretty extensive, and the cultural matters and the resources that were there actually sustained the people for a really long time, and everything that they needed was there. You have your natural resources, you have just your resources in general that were able to allow you to sustain yourself. And like you said, the history is pretty extensive, and we try to preserve and protect as much of that as we can, especially with times changing, assimilation, modernization, internet, cell phones. We all change right along with the times.
So if someone were to come visit the reservation, would they see a notable difference in way of life there compared to what you'd see outside of the reservation?
Not necessarily. The government itself, we actually have the same issues, same problems that exist outside of the reservation. We have gang issues, we have alcoholism, suicide, we have environmental issues, environmental impacts. We deal with a lot of things on a lot of the levels that you see externally. So our government operates almost the exact same way.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about reservations. You operate outside of federal jurisdiction, but you still have a government set up and a real thriving community. I spent an enjoyable hour reading your newsletter. It was pretty extensive.
Oh, good. That's good to know. Good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. So your government is set up. It's a like committee style, right?
Right. It's actually called Tribal Council,
right.
And it's comprised of 10 tribal members. And we basically make the decisions, regarding political action, where we need to go, the direction the tribe would want to go, and in the best interest of the people, the membership, and short-term, long-term goals, that type of thing. And we don't actually operate outside of the federal jurisdiction. We have a constitution and bylaws that allows us to operate, with law enforcement, and we have that capabilities to look out for the best interests of the enrolled members and the people, within the exterior boundaries of the reservation. So it's not we're separate from the federal. Feds do intercede in certain matters, and because it is federal trust land, we can't say no. We allow them to come in and do what they need to do.
Yeah. Now you mentioned earlier, the effort to preserve cultural history and traditions. Does that includes the language? I imagine. Do most people on the reservation speak the language?
When I grew up, there was a lot of people who still spoke and understood the language, but over time, things have changed. Elders have passed away. With that, you have just a loss of culture overall, and it is an impact. There is an impact that we see tribally, but also, more people are leaving at an earlier age, and when they come back, they're just not immersed in the culture and some of the language and even the primitive practices that the old people did that helped them sustain themselves.
So what do you do to keep those traditions alive?
With the ability to apply for federal funding, we create a plan that we're going to be able to sustain and preserve what we have left of our culture, the language, the practices, seasonal practice, seasonal harvest, because all of those things were a daily part of the old people's life, and that's something that we really need to preserve because it's still who we are today.
Is it part of the curriculum for the schools out there?
The language, the cultural program and language program, we have created curriculum that is, you know, readable, teachable, and it's real difficult because of the amount of people who don't have an interest in being involved or actively learning and carrying on these things. There's not an importance anymore, and there isn't that overall involvement in households where you used to hear the language on a daily basis, and with modernization and assimilation and all of these things that were placed on the people back in the day, changed it considerably today. So there is a barrier, there is a responsibility that we have and to preserve, but there's just not that involvement from membership anymore.
Yeah, that's tough. Do
Yeah,
you reach out to the people who aren't official members of the tribe to try to bring them in?
We do have language classes, and it's come at your own will. But it's there, it's offered. People, I think, just need to realize that our resources are fading away with time. And like I said, growing up and having that involvement with old people, or even seeing how old people lived, made me realize how things changed up to this point because of that immersement with culture, language, and overall sustainability of life.
Yeah, I can see how that would happen, especially with the internet. It's the great
yeah.
unifier. I mean, a lot of cultures are kind of getting diluted as they kind of blend into one another.
Perfect example. That's so true. It is.
Yeah.
I agree with that statement.
Okay, so I mean, it seems like all communities kind of got hit equally by the recession. Maybe not completely equally, but everyone got hit by the recession. Did you guys get hit by it as well? I know tourism took a big hit.
Well, overall, everywhere took a hit, but you do what you got to do to survive, and you pinch every single penny you can. That's really what it came down to.
So how much of your income that you guys rely on comes from tourism to Pyramid Lake?
Well, that's the interesting question, because we are working at creating and bringing more economic development to the reservation, because those are ultimately what sustain the tribe's administration and government and our services that are provided to people. It's not just the federal resources that we try to draw in, but it's also being able to utilize additional funds and like the resources of tourism, and we're that's one of the things that we're striving to do right now. We're working on that currently, and we need to develop economically so that we're a more sustainable government, and we have a little bit more resources to provide for our people and overall.
Right. So you, I imagine, probably get a lot of tourism out at Pyramid Lake. Is that tough to deal with sometimes?
It is. There are some people who say cut it off completely and totally, because the impact that it has on environmentally. We right now, our biggest concern is the recession of the water, and that's always going to be one of our biggest endeavors, is protecting that resource. And yeah, we do have a high volume of tourism. We have people who use it for recreational, but it's also a very, very spiritual resource for the people. So in hearing some of the negative comments, or even reading negative comments, we always have to keep in mind that we all have a responsibility to protect and preserve that resource, because we use it for recreation. We have spiritual connectivity to the lake and the areas around it. And one of the issues that was pretty big and a big deal is the tribe closing off the eastern side of the lake, which is the pyramid side, due to vandalism, due to graffiti. There were some issues that had happened out there, and opening it up, we really feel that it would open that door up again to the same activity out there.
Right.
And we're going to protect that. So that was a pretty big issue, and I heard some negative comments and read negative comments. But that's our ultimate goal, is to protect that resource.
Absolutely. And Pyramid Lake is a really fascinating, special thing too, because it's unique in that it's kind of the end of
Truckee River.
The Truckee River, and that's not usual. I mean, normally rivers end up in an ocean or some other water system.
Exactly.
So Pyramid is something special to be protected, so that makes sense. So is there a message that you would have to the public if you could tell them something? Is there one thing you'd want them to know?
Go Lakers.
Not what I expected.
I would just like to say that we appreciate, visitors coming out to the lake. We appreciate you respecting the fact that that's one of our most precious resources, and to enjoy your time, but also to think about the impacts that everything does have on the lake. One of the things and issues that we're going to be dealing with in regards to the lake and overall is the regulations that are going to be changing. And I have read some comments on, some of the websites, and, thinking about those things and understanding that this is how the government operates. Those are some pretty big areas that the permit sales, the recreational activities, it could not be a resource. It could not be, so we just like for people to take that into mind when you go out there, permits, and it promotes the overall government of the tribe and the services that are provided.
Yeah, and it's not just empty desert out there.
Exactly.
It's your home.
And
right.
we do have annual activities and things that happen that, the general public is welcome to. We have spawning season, you have the fishing, you have recreation, but we also have an annual powwow that is held the third weekend of every July. So, people are available. We'd like to welcome you out to that, and that's in Wadsworth at the Big Bend Ranch.
Absolutely. It's not every day you get the opportunity to see something like that, especially as you mentioned with the cultural strength kind of weakening over time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Vinton, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is it for this episode of Face the State, but for more information or to see past episodes, just head to ktvn.com. Thank you for being with us. We will see you next weekend.